another aspect of preparing for performance is to actually practice performing. And I had a wonderful experience back in my college university years, studying with Dr. Paul Pollei, and he taught me how to practice, and I can honestly say that. I learned so much about how to practice. And one year, he had assigned me to learn the Etude in C sharp minor, Opus 10, number 4, by Frédéric Chopin. And it is an amazing piece. It's built on, well, I'll play the little... Anyway, and it goes, it's about, I can't remember if it's 6 pages or 8. I think it's 6 pages of 16th notes, 6 or 7. It basically doesn't stop. There might be a quarter note in a couple of places. Anyway, it's a crazy piece. It's wonderful. It's full of 16th note scale, sort of just patterns, little scale patterns in swirly patterns, and I learned a lot about playing on black notes and fast, and there would be chords in one hand, so it was just loaded. And if you know the etudes of Chopin, they are just of the highest level of technicality, virtuosity, musicality, and everything. And we know, of course, Chopin as the poet of the piano, so his etudes are just the best. So I learned the piece, and I worked really hard on it, and Dr. Pollei taught us all to practice in sections and practice different tempos, and I had that, and I had my goal as far as how fast I wanted it to be, and we set goals with that, and so it was moving along, and it was progressing, and I'll never forget this. I had a lesson, it must have been on a Friday, because I remember it was a Friday, and I played it for him, and it was memorized, but I stumbled here and there. At the, we worked through a lot of things, a lot of technical issues, and tempo issues, and you have to play the piece consistent from beginning to end, and it's got to have clarity and accuracy, and the list goes on. So he looked at me and he said, by Monday, you need to have performed this 20 times. And I was shocked because I was a pretty good performer. I was a good memorizer, and but this knocked my socks off, this etude. Anyway, he was very emphatic and said 20 performances by Monday. So that's 3 days away. And I went to school at BYU, and so had lots of friends, and practiced lots of hours every day. I was very consistent, but in practicing that amount of time, I needed to take breaks here and there, and so those were wonderful times of emerging out of the practice room and having a 2-minute chat with a friend, or going down to the drinking fountain and getting a drink of water, or just stretching out. That's what we do. So I imagine, I'm pretty sure I did tell several friends, I've got to perform this. So if you have, it's a very 6 pages of 16th notes doesn't take very long, and so we all played for each other. That's how we practiced our performing. So I did that, and I told the music teachers this a few days ago. The first performance was a little rough, but by the end of that first time I played for a friend, it was a little bit better. It was just that much better. And I kind of was surprised, and then, an hour or so later, I played it for someone else, performed it, if you will, and that was the whole point, and it got a little better each time. And then I kept doing that. So, but once or twice an hour, I performed it for another friend down in the practice rooms. And I was literally shocked because I had never been given that serious of an assignment from Dr. Pollei. You will perform this 20 times by Monday. And of course, he knew what would happen if I actually followed through with that. So I don't remember if by Monday I actually made it to 20. I know I was close. And I know that literally with each performance, it got a little bit better. So I've told this many times to various students. I also liken it to one time, my children and I, growing up, we were a Disneyland family, and from the first time we went to Disneyland, thanks to my sister and her husband, Cynthia and Chris, my kids fell in love with Disneyland. And so we tried really hard to go and save money each year so that we could go. One year, this was after California Adventure had opened, and they used to have what used to be called the roller coaster, California Screaming. And my kids could get me on the fast rides in California Adventure, Disneyland, maybe once. I had a few of my favorites in Disneyland. But California Screaming was kind of beyond my comfort zone. And one time we were there, and there didn't happen to be very many people in line. So we all went on. It was great. I was scared out of my mind. And we got off, and the line was still short. And so we went right back on again. And I noticed that I was not quite as scared the second time, because we did it immediately, and then we went a third time, and probably even a fourth time. We kept going as many times as that shorter line allowed. I learned something from that, because roller coasters scare me quite a bit, but me going on it over and over and in quick succession really calmed my nerves. So I will tell students this little story of me. They love that I used to go on a roller coaster. But we'll talk about performing over and over. And I love the number 3, and I think 3 is magical. And so sometimes I will tell them, you need to perform 3 times every day when you're coming up on a big performance. And that makes a huge difference. I was just talking with a student the other day, and we talk about how, yes, perform for friends, perform for family members. You can also turn on that smartphone and press record and record yourself. And for me, one of the greatest things to come out of the pandemic is that we have so many more options with recording ourselves. So, I mean, we've always had that with the smartphone, but we've got it even more, and people use it. And the minute I press record, just like with this video, I'm a little bit on edge. And so I consider that when I'm performing or when I'm recording myself, I go into that hyper-focus mode, and it's very good because it feels different. So anyway, these are just a few little options and little examples of how we can prepare for performing.